Right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Today we will be explaining about the curriculum models, which are process model and the product model. So the people who are presenting today will be me, Nadia, Shubhashini, and also Yan Yan. Okay, to start off, we'll look at the overview of our presentation. So first, we will do the introduction, and then we will explain to you about the product model and the process model as well. And also we will be explaining about the differences between the product and the process model, and also about the disadvantages and the advantages of both the models. And finally, we will talk about the summary, which is the conclusion. All right, now, so within the educational system, it's important for everyone to assess the students' needs and the best way that we can satisfy the students' need and meet their needs. And also we have to make sure that we also satisfy the teachers' needs for their work to be efficient. Now, both these things are important for within education, because like within the education system, both these people, like the students and the teachers, are important in creating a very great community in the future. So within the education process, if we put emphasis on these two people, like the students' needs and the teachers' needs, we have to provide, this will provide so much more humane educational service and in an efficient manner for the better of the future and for the better of the future. So by assessing what type of things we can include within our education, we a lot of researchers, they came up with two processes, which are the process model and the product model.
All right, next up, we are going to see the definition of model. So what exactly is model? So according to Page and Thomas, model is a means of transferring a relationship or process from its actual setting to one in which it can be more conveniently studied. So furthermore, we are going to see the characteristic between the process model and the product model as well. So the characteristic between the product model and process model, okay, we need to keep in mind about two things. So product model is actually teacher-centered, and then the product process model is actually student-centered. So for example, okay, the example I'll give you later on. So we'll see first, for the product model, it emphasizes on the plans and intentions of the educators to the students. So, and then the behavioral objectives are used. So the educator, the teacher, he or she, he will have everything planned from starting from what to teach the children or what to teach the students. So like making assessments. So they want to assess what the students have studied. So they will come out with all the examination assessments. And then the structure as well. So there's a proper structure that they need to follow, like a rules and regulation, some sort of rules of regulation. And then the choice through electives. So they will be like certain type of questions or certain type of things that will be arranged by the teachers. And then the students can only like choose from the particular things that the teacher has prepared. And then it has to be precise as well, because it is like it is by the teacher. So there's no choices for the student as well. And then lastly, as we know, the product model is like mainly teacher-centered, and it's mainly the teacher's view and then the teacher's rules. So for the process model, it is like student-centered. So it emphasizes on activity and effects on how students are like learning, and then how they are like actually inputting all the information that is given by the teacher. So the intentions are used as well in the process model. So more students' choices are available for a process model because certain students have certain needs, as we know as an educator. So certain to the like most of the students have their own choice on learning something new as well. So it's mostly experiential and personal learning. So they are putting into experience on what they are learning. They are putting into action, and then they also know, okay, how am I going to learn this, and then how am I going to input the information that is given here. So environment plays a role here also, like they need maybe they need a calm environment to learn things. Maybe they need an environment where uh, they are surrounded by their friends or something that they like, so that they can like learn information faster than the more traditional way. So social and life skills come in handy in the process model as well, because they are experiencing, they are putting into work. So they are also learning on how to act or how to react to a certain situation. As we know that process model is student-centered and product model is teacher-centered. So the next thing we are going to look is how the product and the models of the curriculum reproduce with permissions of the further education unit. So as we know, like there's this acting, knowing, and feeling part in every in the product and process model as well. So the deficiency in the product model that we see is like when the student have to be corrected before the progress can be made. So if they are lacking in some part, so as an educator, you have to like push the students more to in order to learn it in a correct order. So the competency is like how are they going to act according to what the educator is teaching. So how are they going to perform in the specific skill that the teacher wants the students to be? And then for the information based, so for the product, for the information based, like what are the teacher presenting to the students? So how are they going to follow all the information that is presented to them? And then the socialization. Okay, how are they going to act according to what they have learned in the society, in the environment? So for the process part, like for the product part, like for example, you have a product in your hand. So before buying a product, you will like go through, okay, how is it good for me? And then what are the like advantages or disadvantages? So how well does this product is going to last? And then based on the information base, you're going to, okay, this will be good for me, something like that. And then for the process part, experiential. So you are like, after you've learned from your educator or from the teacher, you are going to put into practice. You are going to like, okay, I'm going to learn this. How am I going to learn this? And then how am I going to acquire the knowledge that is given to me? So reflective, they will reflect, okay, am I actually learning? Am I actually grasping the thing that the teacher wants me to grasp? And then they will reflect back, okay, they will like challenge themselves. And then the counseling part is like they have this healthy relationship with the educator as well as their education system. And then they know, okay, how am I feeling? Am I good? Like, how am I feeling? Like, am I actually acquiring all the knowledge that is given to me? And then are they like motivated to learn more? Or are they are they not motivated into learning more? So these are the characteristics that we can see in the product and the process model.
So next, we will look at the differences between the product model and the process model. So I think from what Shubha has presented earlier, we can see some very obvious differences between the product model and the process model. So firstly, for the differences, the key focus of the product model is, of course, on the content and the learning outcomes, because we see that behavioral objectives are set prior to planning the lesson. Whereas for the process model, is less planning on the outcome, but more focus is on the learner. So how the learner is going to learn things, what are the opportunities, what are the activities that should be provided for the learner so that the learner can learn the topic of the syllabus. So for the product model, the four main parts of the product model is actually for the objectives, the knowledge, the experience, and the evaluation. But for the process model, it's on the assessing, the planning, the implementing, and evaluating. So from these words alone, you can see that the product model is focused on like things, like objectives, things that you can write down, knowledge, things that you can identify, evaluation, like test papers. Whereas for the process model, assessing, planning, all these are processes. They are like it covers a span of time where you spend this time to plan out what the student plans out what they are going to do, and then while they are planning, that is where they learn. So you can see how the product model focuses on objectives, focuses on identifiable things, but the process model is on the process. And then for the product model, based on human abilities, the product model will separate it into cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains. So it will separate into the three different human abilities. Whereas for the process model, it will see learning as a holistic approach. So the human abilities are united and they are regarded as tendencies and capacities. So for example, when you are at this level, you will have the tendency to do something or to do, and then at this level you have the capacity, you are able to perform certain skills, certain knowledge you are able to display. And these tendencies and capacities, they are very closely intertwined. So it's not separated into different learning outcomes like the product model. And then lastly, the product model. Okay, for the product model, of course, the focus is on the product, the final outcome, the result. And for the product model, the product can be mastered. So if let's say we want to, let's say we're talking about English. So the product model, if let's say you achieve the learning outcome, that means your grammar is perfect, for example. But for the process model, the process cannot be mastered. It's not something that you can make to perfection. Instead, it is something that you can just keep on improving. You can improve on the learning opportunities that the student gets in order to achieve the results. Yeah. So next, we want to look at some of the disadvantages and the advantages of first the product model. So of course, we already know like the product model, it lists out the behavioral objectives for the class. So it is more purposeful learning. Why? Because the objectives guide the class. So the students already know beforehand, okay, this is what I need to achieve at the end of this class. So this gives purposeful learning to the students. And then these objectives also help the teacher in planning the class. So the teacher knows, okay, if let's say I want to teach this topic, what sort of structure I should have in the class, what sort of content am I going to teach the students. And because everything is like listed clearly, like in black and white, so it produces more accurate methods for testing and evaluation of the students' achievement. So it is easier to evaluate the students based on the objectives that have been stated. However, there are also some disadvantages of the product model where because everything is already written out and structured, right? So the teacher is restricted from taking advantage of teaching opportunities that occur unexpectedly. So sometimes during class when the teacher is teaching, suddenly there is an opportunity to learn something new, maybe something outside from the lesson. So this will not really be so-called allowed to focus on in this product model because the teacher has to adhere to the behavioral objectives. But if let's say it's in the process model where the process is emphasized, then by all means the teacher can divert the way into this unexpected teaching opportunity, and the students can learn something different that is not unplanned. So another disadvantage is that because the objectives are in place, so there is something called measurability, where just like I mentioned earlier, that the product model is very good at evaluating students. So the teachers also understand that, okay, my students have to achieve this target by the end of this semester. So because of that, teachers may feel stressed because they may be judged on their ability to produce results. So instead of focusing on the teaching process, the teacher may be thinking that, oh, I need to make sure I bring, by all means, I'm going to bring my students in to achieve these results by the end of the semester. And then another disadvantage is that not all educational outcomes can be predicted in the class. So some things, let's say, what if there are some new things that the students can learn in the class, but it's not written down. So not everything that we want to learn, not everything that we learn in life, it can be written down in black and white. So this is one of the disadvantage of the product model. And lastly is that behavioral objectives can be so many that the teacher has to spend time to think and write down all the behavioral objectives. And instead of like teaching, they spend more time in like planning and thinking of these objectives. So it kind of takes the teacher's focus away from the teaching process. So next, we want to look at the process model, the advantages and disadvantages of the process model. So contrary to the product model, students can gain from unexpected learning opportunities in the process model. So it's whatever they face in the process. In fact, there is a model under the process model that welcomes chaos. So of course, this is not something that the teacher would like, but the problem based, if let's say students meet problems in the class, that is a very good learning opportunity. How are they going to solve the problem? So students actually gain from these unexpected learning opportunities from this process model. And then another advantage of the process model is that of self-assessment. So students have the responsibility to assess themselves. So because of that, they are very active in the learning process and they are making their own decisions. They are given choices. Okay, what are they going to learn? How are they going to learn it? And because they are in the planning process, they are in the doing process, so they are also in the assessing process. So they have to make sure that they are learning, and is very good because it gives the responsibility of learning to the students, and they themselves can be motivated to learn more as well. However, there's also some disadvantages of the process model, where the process model can be criticized for its lack of measurability. So everything is based on the process. There is no like concrete evidence of competence. And also, if let's say students do most of the assessing, so where is the certification going to come from? So of course, not any an educational body won't simply certify students' assessment of their own learning. So this is one of the disadvantages of the process model. Next, we look at the implementation.
Now we'll look at we look at the implementation of the process model and the product model. Now, the process model, just like what Shubhaj said earlier, it's a student-centered teaching classroom where students have to be really active in class, and teacher will give like in-class tasks so that the students are actively participating in whatever task they're doing. Students also will be able to choose their own activity, and also the education of what the teacher gives the students is based on the advantages that they will get after they graduate. For example, they will it's based on their environmental and social life skills, which will help them in the future when they are within the working environment. For example, within the process model, since it's student-centered, a classroom that implements process model can be, for example, the teacher allows the students to explain the slides for themselves. And after the students explain the slides, the teacher would explain it again if the students didn't explain it correctly, or the students didn't elaborate as much as they could within each slide. Another example for process model is when the teacher gives a task to the students early on in the class, in the timing of the classroom, before the teacher starts presenting their own slides. The teacher gives them tasks, and like, for example, to present before the class starts, so that and the topic should be based on what the teacher will teach later after the students have finished presenting, so that the students are able to understand better the information that the teacher will give later on in class, or and also the students will be able to explain and assess the topic for themselves independently before they can be dependent on the teacher. And for the product model, just like Shubha said earlier, it's teacher-centered teaching. So basically, the teacher plans everything about the class, and all the students have to do is accept the information given by the teacher, and the assessment given by the teacher, just like what Yayan said, is very objective, and again, everything is planned by the teacher. And one of the examples of product model is when teacher comes in class and teach the students without having a one-to-one interaction with the students, and also they don't really prioritize students' activeness within the class. They just prioritize the students' listening skills within the class. Now, to conclude everything, the product model, it doesn't really have a specific right or wrong. I mean, we can't say the product the models, both the models doesn't have any rights or wrongs. Neither one is ideal, and neither one completes the program in of itself. So basically, what we have to do as an educator is to depend on the values, on our own values of ourselves, to make sure that we're consistent with the program that we chose, and also to make sure that the consistency that we choose is best within our own course. For example, like the process model is student-based teaching, right? So basically, we can have like the process model. We can implement the process model for language classes, because language classes, we have to have the students to interact with each other, be active with each other, and be active with the students within the class. So activeness is important within language classes. So it's for an educator, in my opinion, they have to implement process model. Process model is the best suit of implementation for language classes. Thank you for listening.